Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and products that's going through to the 21st century. And so as we look towards the planet and adding 2 billion new people by 2050, how are we going to be able to provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, all the basic infrastructure such as water, education, healthcare, and of course, food. And this is what we're going to be talking about. A huge movement is going on around the globe, whether you're in India, China, Brazil, South Africa, Russia, wherever you are on the planet, more and more people are moving to organic foods. And we have someone who is the true expert at this, someone who's been before on Emerald Planet TV. This is J.M. McFall. She is an organic living coach, Master Gardener through the University of Florida Cooperative Extension Service, and also is president of what's called Organic Living for All. She's coming in by voice through Skype, and our special guest sitting right beside me that is usually actually behind the cameras, but this is Sunday Stein. She is the studio floor manager from the Emerald Planet TV. And Jay, I think you're here by voice, correct?
I am.
And we have your lovely countenance up on the screen there, Grow an Edible Eden. I love that catchphrase there. But tell us a little bit about Organic Living for All. What is it, the mission, and also the vision?
Well, Organic Living for All basically says it. My passion is to work with people and help them understand why it's important to live an organic life and how to do so. So I coach them on how to do it. I teach them how to garden, and I just really am working towards that planet-wide.
Yeah, and the whole thing that's interesting about this is that the Master Gardener program, I was actually involved in that for a number of years through Virginia Tech, which is the land-grant university in Virginia. And of course, University of Florida is the land-grant university for that beautiful state. Tell us a little bit about the Master Gardener program, and then we'll get into the whole thing as far as the organics and why you think that's the future of food and future of probably fuel and fiber as well in the, as we go towards 2050.
Yes, the Master Gardener program, every state has one, and the counties teach those to people who live there, so that they can learn more about the ecosystem, the flora, the fauna, and how to take care of the resources. And it's a very valuable course, and I'm a Michigan Master Gardener as well as a Florida Master Gardener.
I think it's fantastic. Now, talking about organics, one, let's define what organic means, because that seems to have a different meaning depending on who you're talking with and also what country you're in. And then also, why do you think it's very important for the American consumers to be moving into organics for vegetables, fruit, beans, nuts, even the ornamentals, both edible and the decorative styles, as far as a real life shift?
Well, you're right on different definitions of organic, and that is true, because organic can just mean something that was once alive, but organic as a food source means it's been raised without any herbicides or pesticides, but there's no qualifications on how the soil's been prepared. And that's what I do, is I focus on preparing the soil so that you actually have nutrient-dense living soil, which will make the best food possible that will help your body be the most nutrient-dense, healthy that you can have.
Yeah, this is something that most people don't know, Jay, and if you can just continue on with that description about living soil. And I have a good friend in Minnesota that talks about all the time about growing soil and moving away from just dirt. What's the difference between the two?
Well, dirt is just dirt, and you need to have worms in there. You need to have microorganisms in there, because the microorganisms that are in the soil are the exact same microorganisms that we have in our gut. And they do the same things in the soil as they do in our guts. It's the immune system. It helps us absorb, take up, and use those nutrients that were actually in our foods. So it's very important to have living soil, because if you just find a plot of dirt and you don't make sure that it's alive, your plants aren't going to grow very well, and you're not going to get the nutrients that you need to get.
That's a great description, and thank you for breaking that down and making it something that people can really understand. Because as you know, Jay, many times when you hear it, it's more textbook, and I love the way you did it. Sunday, why don't you go ahead and ask the next question?
Hi, Jay.
Hi.
My question is, what is the standard American diet? And,
That is such a great question.
And further, please, Jay, why is it important that Americans know more about the typical diet in modern American society?
Well, that's a great question. Now, have you got the picture up of the standard?
Yes, it's right in front of us.
So you can see that most people are eating processed foods. 62% of the food they put in their body is processed. A lot of sweets, refined grains, and oils. They've got a lot of toxins in them, a lot of chemicals, and they're not the best thing to eat. 25% is meats, eggs, dairy, and fish, and often those aren't the best quality. And so when you look at it, it's only 10% fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds, and then whole grains is only 2.5%. So what happens when they're eating this type of diet, the processed foods have a lot of things that are really bad for our health. There's herbicides, there's pesticides, there's genetically modified organisms, which we're going to talk about a little bit more. And the food is not very healthy. So people are experiencing a lot of illnesses. If you look at some of the stats around the world, but especially here in the United States, the diabetes, the cancers, the heart disease, they've all gone through the roof. And this is a big part of it.
Yeah, I want to ask a question, if we can follow on to this on the standard American diet, something that we're going to get to sugars and the fructose corn syrup. Well, what about salt? Seems like a lot of the processed foods are very high in salt. Tell us a little bit about how that impacts on the lifestyle, impacts on obesity, and then also if you have a lack of exercise, what does that actually do to your body?
Well, that's interesting because there's actually two kinds of salt. There's the iodized salt that people buy for their kitchen table, and that one is actually, they've heated it up really, really hot and destroyed the minerals so that they could add the iodine back. So it actually was not a really good solution, because that actually is the bad salt. But when you take sea salt that has color to it, either red or gray or whatever, that's actually natural. So it has the good salts from the sea that our bodies actually need. So people should not eat the iodized salts. They should eat the sea salts.
Okay, great. As far as the processed foods in the standard American diet, I'm going to leave this slide up here. What kind of changes can people make that's easy, because Americans like to have things that are easy and not too difficult, to start moving people, and maybe a percentage of two, because when you have the 62%, that's a great margin that people can work in, but move towards something that's healthier in your estimation?
Well, it's interesting because we've got a whole generation or two now who are used to eating these processed foods. And I grew up I never ate this. We always cooked all our own foods. We grew all our own foods, and so homemade meals are what I'm used to. But the new generation doesn't even know a lot of times how to prepare a meal because they're so used to this. So, and it could also be the food they grew up with, and it's more comfort food. So it's a little hard, but they can start taking some of the healthier versions of the processed foods and eat those. And that's one of the things that I'm working on, is actually getting some cookbooks together, doing videos on how to cook with recipes, and adding more of the fruits and the vegetables and other healthy things that we just need more of. But it is a bit of a challenge. So I tell people to do it on a slow, baby steps kind of thing. Don't just try to jump into it wholeheartedly, because then your body can just go, oh my God, what is this?
Okay, Sunday, go ahead and ask your question. And we're about running out of time, Jay, so we need to be quick in answering this.
Okay.
Okay, Jay, what, please, is the amount of refined sugar and high fructose corn syrup in American diet? And how is this impacting general health of our citizens? And what can be done to reduce or possibly even remove the sugars and high fructose corn syrup?
Oh, what a great question. Dr. McFall, who's a naturopathic doctor on the internet, he says that there are 76 dangers from sugar. We know the basics: diabetes, aging, rots our teeth, shoots our blood sugar through the roof, and it's addictive. While high fructose corn syrup is really doubly bad because our body doesn't recognize it as such, and it actually shuts off the communication between the stomach and the brain. The brain doesn't realize you're full, so you just keep on eating. You can overeat way more than you should.
Jay, we got only about 15 seconds left. What do you see for the expansion of organic living for all over the next 5, 10, 15 years?
I see me being worldwide due to the internet, the phones, and I want to do a lot of traveling and really get out there and teach people what they need to know.
Fantastic. This is Jay McFall, Organic Living Coach, Master Gardener, and also President of Organic Living for All, as we create the Emerald Planet.
Art, a universal language, an expression of culture, of self. And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs, or to make a tax-free donation, contact C. Fripp at AOL.com.
Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America and Reading is Fundamental.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis as we're looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, products, and the people, of course, that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we look around the globe and adding 2 billion new people by 2050, how are we going to be able to feed all of these people and at the level where it's actually they have sustained quality of life and not just exist. And we have someone that's coming on, going to be with us, coming in by voice Skype. This is Jay McFall. She's an organic living coach, master gardener through the University of Florida Cooperative Extension Service, and president of what's called Organic Living for All. And sitting right beside me is someone who works with us on a week-to-week basis, Cindy Stein. She's the studio floor manager for the Emerald Planet TV. And Jay, I think you're already here, correct?
I am.
Hey, welcome. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
And I understand
Great being here.
You're a balmy 40 degrees in Florida, so you're a little bit warmer than we are. Looking at this special title of Organic Living Coach, what is an organic living coach? And then how do you use that in this special emphasis on organics, which is very important, as we know, for food and ornamentals and vegetables and other things, as far as the organic living for all. How does all this work together? Because that's a lot of organics all put together.
Yes. Well, as we just talked about, it is hard to make a change from going from all processed foods into organics. So what I do is I actually coach people. I get them into the right mindset. I get them and help them change their lifestyle so they can actually take control of their health, of them and their families, and really make a change in their lives.
Well, I tell you,
I do that on the internet. I do that on phones, however we need to do that.
That sounds very important, and we've known each other a number of years now, so I know that you're doing a very excellent job at that through this Organic Living for All. And of course, you have your organic center there in Florida. But this is something that's really, it's almost like a rhetorical question, but it's important because what is a food label? What does the average consumer think about food labels, and do they actually use them?
Actually, they do. I know people used to just ignore the labels, but we really do push what is on the label, because the first things on the label are the most, and the ones at the end have the least amount. But you really have to look at it, because if you can't pronounce them, you shouldn't be eating that. And if it's got like 50 different things in it, you know that's not too good for you. You want things with very short labels, and you also want them to say organic. And more people are looking. But what's scary is a lot of manufacturers know that people are looking for natural, and they're looking for healthy. And so they will put those on the labels, but they don't mean anything. It's not the same as a certified organic.
Oh, okay. All right. That's something important to know. Looking at Organic Living for All as far as the consumers, I know that you said that people more and more are actually paying attention to it. Are there any statistics as far as the percentage of people that actually pay attention to the labels, and then how much time do they spend on those? Because when I go to a grocery store and I've not bought a product before, I may be there sometimes 10 or 12 minutes and just reading the labels. Then I'll get other products similar to it. I make comparisons, and I do that on breads and cereals, just about everything that I buy that is processed. I want to know exactly what's in it and what is the percentage, particularly sugars, high fructose corn syrup, which more and more products, they're eliminating that, and also salt.
Good for you. That's great. Now, I know a lot of people do, but I know everybody doesn't. So that's one of the things I do encourage. And the other thing is, like, let's say you're going to buy a chapstick and it says organic big, but if you don't read the label, and it only has to be 8 to 12% organic for it to put organic on the big label.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
Can you say that again? I did not know that, and I've been, actually I helped get the first certified organic gardening program certified in Virginia a number of years ago, and they were demanding that it really needed to be 100%. So that's an amazing change. Was that something that was lobbied, or why is it so low?
I don't know. It bothers me a lot, but that's why I always read it. Does it say organic oil? Does it say organic this, organic that? Or does it just say one thing is organic? Then you just have to beware.
I'll be darned. Well, thank you for sharing that. I didn't know. We have a whole freezer or cooler full of beverages here on the screen. Tell us a little bit about the beverages, and then let's get into this whole thing marked diet, organic, all these other labels that food has to make you feel like you're getting something that's good for you. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Right, that's another one of those things. You can go and you can get this big, tall, beautiful bottle of iced tea, healthy for you, and you look at the label, it's got high fructose corn syrup in it. So you really do have to look at the labels, even if it's health food, because processed means processed. So look at what's on there. They can claim they're anything they want to be. And I could create a product that says the healthiest food you could eat and sell it, and it could be horrible. But the name sounds good.
Well, understand that you can eat certain foods, and I've heard this say that if you're eating something that's highly processed, you might as well just get a spoonful of sugar. It's going to give you the same nutrient value as that particular food that you just ate, and it may be something that tastes and smells delicious, but it's not necessarily good for you. How do you know what is going to be good for you? How do you study that, and how do we take advantage of organic living for all to make sure that we're getting the right foods?
Yeah, again, you have to, like, say you're going to a restaurant, you really have to talk with the owners and the cooks and find out what are they actually serving you. The same when you're going to a health food store. If they've got stuff in there, sometimes, I don't know, I hope it's an accident, but sometimes they have stuff that's not good for you.
Well, one of the things I always ask about now is ask about sugar, salt, of course, because I don't use any sugar or any salt in any of the foods that I prepare, and I cook maybe 90% of my food from scratch. But also, I don't use MSG. What is MSG, and why should we not be using that?
Monosodium glutamate. Most people are allergic to it. It's a flavor enhancer. So a lot of the Chinese and Japanese restaurants, well, maybe not Japanese, but a lot of the restaurants will add it because it boosts the flavor. But most people get a very violent reaction to it, so it's not a good thing.
Yeah, it makes my nose drip and my head hurts. Cindy, you want to ask the next question?
Jay, hi. My question is, what are GMOs, and where do we find such food products in today's menus and meals, and how do these impact the value of food in the typical American diet? And please, what is your research, again, on GMOs?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. GMOs are genetically modified organisms. We don't call it food because they're organisms. They're developed in a laboratory. Our bodies cannot digest them. It causes a lot of problems in our bodies. And anything that has corn, soy, or sugar in it, those are all genetically modified. And the thing is, they don't even have to label them as GMOs because of the politics. And that's wrong. And that's one of the things I'm fighting for. And it may not have anything to do with the taste, but the nutritional value is zilch because it can't be digested, and it actually will destroy the microbes in your gut and create huge problems.
Okay.
And so you have to just know what's genetically modified so you can avoid it, and I can help you with that.
Got it. Going back to what we were talking about before, Jay, as far as packaged like diet foods, and then of course you have diet meals. They have so many calories and food, you know, the fat and the nutritional content and all that. But also more and more foods are marked as health food. What is health food, and how dependable are these labels as far as health food is concerned? And then are these necessarily better nutrition than what we would have if it was not marked health food or diet food?
Not necessarily. They use those terms independent of really what you're going to get. Again, you have to pay attention to the labels. What are the ingredients in it, and what are the ratios?
Now, looking at the work that you're doing as far as all this labeling, and you're trying to bring more organics into the American diet, what do you look for in the future for organic living for all and your coaching work over the next 5, 10, and 15 years? And what do you see the movement for the average American citizen, and also maybe people abroad that are more and more going to organics, like in China, Brazil, India, South Africa, even Russia? Many people are moving to organics.
Yeah, well, it's really nice because all of Europe has totally rejected GMOs, and so has India and many other countries. And many of those countries also reject the chemicals that we use. So they are going organic, and that's very, very good. And I see more and more people growing their own food, and that's going to really help them to eat better and prepare their own foods, and actually do it as a family. So it's actually making the family unit better and helping the kids.
Thank you, Jay. We're going to have to leave you. Jay McFall,
Okay.
Organic Living Coach, Master Gardener, and their own organization as we create the Emerald Planet.
There's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me.
There's more than just books at the library.
Il n'y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
I don't want to be hooked to a machine.
I want all the medical treatment available to me.
I wouldn't want my family to have to make this decision.
My doctor knows what's best for me.
An advance directive is your life on your terms. Talk with your family. Decide what's right for you. Then put it in writing.
Documenting my wishes today means my family won't have to make heart-wrenching decisions later.
To learn more, visit www.putitinwriting.org.
1,200 American youth run away from their homes every day. The National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. 1-800-RUNAWAY. If you are a runaway, thinking about running away from home, or a parent or guardian concerned about issues facing your child, call us 24 hours a day. 1-800-RUNAWAY. In times of crisis, hope is just a phone call away. 1-800.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome again to the Emerald Planet TV. We're here week to week looking at what we call the best of the best, the solutions, the best practices that are going on around the globe. And we do this in over 144 different nations as we broadcast to all 214 countries and territories abroad, as we look for the people that are actually providing the leadership as we add about 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050. And in doing that, of course, we're putting a huge strain on the resources that we have as far as the water, the soil, the air, as far as climate change is concerned. But at the same time, we need to increase the quality of life for all these new people, plus the 7+ billion that are on the planet right now. And someone who's actually working on this on a day-to-day and has dedicated her life to it is McFall. She's an organic living coach, a master gardener through the University of Florida Cooperative Extension Service, and also president of what's called Organic Living for All, coming in by voice Skype and sitting right next to me is someone who helps us on a week-to-week basis. This is Sunday Stein. She is the studio floor manager for the Emerald Planet TV. And Jay, I understand you're here now.
I am.
Jay, welcome back. Say, tell us a little bit about this, the Master Gardener program, something you and I have talked about a little bit before, but I want to go in a little more depth about who actually becomes a Master Gardener, what they go through, the certification process, and why is that in turn so important to organic living for all and the work that you're doing there in the great state of Florida?
Well, people who want to learn more about their ecosystems become master gardeners, and it's actually like a 8 to 12 week class, and it's kind of like they put a funnel into your head and they just shove all this information in there because there's so much. You get this huge book, and it gives you a lot of information about how to take better care of the planet.
Now, my understanding is that actually that's not only just you go through the course and hear your lovely voice for 10 to 12 sessions and all that, but also they have to get involved in their own garden or someone else's garden if they don't have their own. And also, I think that some of them actually go out and become involved with farmers markets. Tell us a little bit about that practical, hands-on aspect of being a master gardener.
Actually, it's a requirement that you do so many volunteer hours a year, whether it's in community gardens or church gardens or going to the farmers markets and teaching people. And I've done this for many, many years, and it's very rewarding working with kids, working with, groups and stuff like that.
Now, looking at the number of years we've known each other, I know that you've been growing and evolving and adding new certifications and attending classes, being mentored yourself by my understanding now, 3 of these organic living coaches in your area. What is the difference that you see as far as where Americans are now than when you first started, and how this progression is moving forward as far as moving towards organics, but also people wanting to be more involved with farmers within their own local communities, like with the CSAs, through these special agreements, and also that they want to buy more local foods?
Wow, that's a lot. 40 years ago when I was teaching nutrition, I was really fighting an uphill battle. People just weren't interested. There were some, but the majority were not. And now it is much easier. There's still people who are not interested at all, but at least there's a bigger percentage of people who are searching for the information that I teach. And CSAs are a wonderful thing because that actually allows you to eat locally good fruits and vegetables, and that's a community-supported agriculture farm. And it's better to eat locally because there's no transit time. You're eating fresh foods, you're eating it in season, and most of the time there's no herbs or there's no herbicides or pesticides. So it is the ideal to do if you can't grow it yourself.
Now, this whole thing as far as eating local, tell us a little more about that, because there are, many people that are actually either unemployed, underemployed. But yeah, one of the fastest growing areas is something that we were doing in America 150, 200 years ago, agriculture. And all of a sudden, urban agriculture is not only on the horizon, it seems like it's galloping through the society, since about 80% of Americans now live in urban areas. Tell us a little bit about that, and how is that impacting the sourcing of food, Jay?
Well, if you're eating strawberries right now, which are not in season in either one of our places, they're coming from the other side of the planet, and they've been shipped here, and it's cost a fortune in fuel to get it here, a lot of time, and how fresh is it anymore? So eating locally, you know that it was just picked in the last few days, and it's definitely not going to be rotten, and it's going to have a lot more nutrients, because the older food is, because it's been sitting, it loses nutrients every day.
Okay, I got it. Cindy's with us, Cindy Stein, as you know. She was introduced a little earlier, Jay, and I'm going to let her ask the next question.
Hi, Jay. My question is, what is the real meaning of the phrase, "you are what you eat"?
Well, if you're eating a lot of sugars and salts and stuff, those actually pull nutrients out of your body and cause your body to be unhealthy. Whereas if you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables and salads, your body is getting more of the nutrients it needs, the fiber and all of that. And so it truly is true that you are what you eat. The better food you eat, the healthier you're going to be. And that is so true that when I coach people, they have to fill out the journal that I give them every single day on what they're putting into their body, so we can keep track of that.
That's fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And the next extension of that is the physicians, whether general practitioners or specialists of various kinds. Do they really understand this whole thing about you are what you eat? And do they actually have those linkages between, healthy diet, education, and the reduction of illnesses, improving positive mental attitude, as well as higher energy levels? Do they make those causal links? And if not, what needs to be done with physicians to make sure that they're doing that?
Right. Doctors are not trained in nutrition prevention or actually the healthiness. So I've had doctors tell me, you don't need to take vitamins. You can get all the nutrients you need from your food. And we know that's not true, because nutrients are not in the soil, so they're not in the foods. So there are doctors who've done a lot of research, who are very knowledgeable and also teach nutrition. But in general, I would say no, they don't. And it's really important for us to talk with them and really get them understanding how important it is, because there's a huge difference between, taking care of an illness with drugs as opposed to with nutrition.
Now, Jay, we have your photo here, and you're standing in one of your gardens there at your organic center down in Florida, and in essence, grow your own edible Eden. And then, of course, we have this one photograph here is about Americans, if they just had one more serving of fruits or vegetables, I'm going to just read this because I think this is profound,
yes, please do.
Would save more than 30,000 lives. That's a lot of people. That's a whole community. And about $5 billion a year in medical cost. So if that's, you know, a real statement and you actually have the source document there from that, why aren't physicians and schools and you know, just everyone in society not emphasizing having the organics, but at the same time having more emphasis on the plant-based instead of having it on animal-based?
Exactly. That's why I've been putting this on my Facebook group. I've been putting it on my personal Facebook page. I've been sending this out to as many people as I can, because it's important to realize that people do need to make some changes. And adding one or more fruits and vegetables a day, how hard is that? That's easy.
Well, Sunday's got the next question. I'm going to let her go ahead and insert that right now, because this is an extension of the question and the answer you were just giving us.
So please, Jay, tell us, tell our viewers what is the proper balance of plant proteins with animal-sourced proteins, and what is the positive impact on human health if we begin to consume higher levels of plant versus animal-based proteins?
Well, the proteins that we get from animals are a complete protein. Now, most of the proteins that we get from plants are not a complete protein. So that's why if you're going to eat like black-eyed peas, you want to mix it with cornbread, because then the two together is a complete protein. So you just have to do a little investigatory work to figure out which proteins work together. And there are some nutrients that we need that we can't get anywhere other than animals. But the more we eat the plants, the better our health is going to get.
Fantastic. And we're about running out of time. We have about 15 seconds. What do you see about further integration of this Master Gardener program into organic living for all? And we have to be quick.
Okay, well, my goal is that we can work together and get further knowledge out there.
That's fantastic. This is Jay McFall, Organic Living Coach, Master Gardener through the University of Florida Cooperative Extension Service, President of Organic Living for All, and she's coming in by voice Skype, and Sunday Stein was sitting right beside me to help do this. And thank you, viewers, for being with us as we're looking around the globe for this best of the best solutions as we create the Emerald Planet.
Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about $3,000. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Only you can prevent wildfires. Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals in the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow! Oh!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President, Executive Director of Emerald Planet, and also the host for the Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis, coming out of Washington, D.C. in the United States, but looking at 144 different nations. And of course, as you know from past broadcasts, we often are broadcasting from overseas, back through the master station here in Washington, D.C., and out to the rest of the world. And we're talking about food and the importance of it as we go towards 2050, adding about 2 billion new people. So we have projected about 9 billion citizens on this planet at that time, and how we're going to be able to take care of them and provide them with the nutrients and the food that they need so that they have increased levels and quality of life instead of just existing. And someone that has been a friend of ours for a number of years now and appears time to time on Emerald Planet TV is J.M. McFall. She is an organic living coach, master gardener through the University of Florida Cooperative Extension Service, and a president of the Organic Living for All. Coming in by voice, and sitting right beside me is Sunday Stein, who is the studio floor manager here with Emerald Planet TV and Channel 10 TV. And Jay, I think you're here with us, correct?
I am.
We can't see you, but we can certainly hear you, and thank you for being on Emerald Planet TV. Tell us a little bit about the changes. You went through this Master Gardener program at the University of Florida, which is a land-grant university, and I'm going to have you describe that if you don't mind. And that's part of the Cooperative Extension Service. But how have you seen over these years the changes as far as research, emphasis, the message, and also the outreach in the area of organics, and how that is becoming more and more important as far as a land-grant university for food production, consumer use, and also public education?
Well, when I first did my Master Gardener course up in Michigan, they didn't talk about organics at all. And that was back in like '86. And when I did my Master Gardener program here about 8 years ago, they actually had an organic gardening section, and they did some composting and a few other things. So they're getting better, and I think that they're going to continue to make more changes and teach less chemicals and more naturals.
Now, looking at your logo here, Organic Living, of course, that's embedded in everything you're doing. It's on your website, it's on your Facebook page, which I'm going to have you give the URLs towards the end of our conversation here. But why is it so difficult for the average American family consumer to change their eating habits, their eating patterns? And what do you think needs to happen as far as allowing people to really think much more consciously about food and what they're actually putting into their bodies, so that the food really does become a medicine and it's more than just trying to sustain you from one day to the next?
Yeah, well, you know, people have habits, and it's hard to change those habits. So if they're always, you know, going and picking up fast foods and not cooking, that's what they're used to, and they don't really know how to make those changes, and they're not certain that they want those changes because it's fairly inexpensive and easy, very convenient to eat that way. And it's a lot more work to start buying the groceries and learning how to cook and make your own food. But that's what I'm working towards. And I've got a little team that with a dietitian who helps with the recipes, and we'll be doing some videos and stuff like that. So we're working towards that.
Now we have this very handsome young man on here, and he has a quote, "The difference between the impossible and the possible lies in a person's determination." How does that fit into using more organic foods, more plant-based foods, which is actually much better for the environment instead of all animal-based proteins and food sources. And at the same time, to just dedicating yourself to trying to make a change so that people are healthier and not living off of pharmaceuticals and depending on drugs of various kinds in order to feel better.
Yeah. Well, when I'm coaching people and I'm helping them with their mindset so that they realize how important it really is, they have to make a commitment to do this. They have to decide to make that commitment, and they have to stick to it. That's part of my program because it's very, very important to their well-being, their family's well-being, and the rest of their life.
Now we're talking about like this is something that's it's new and different and modern and all that, but Teddy Roosevelt as president knew this a long time ago. And
yes.
And so why are we just now really catching up to the knowledge that we had over, in essence, 100 years ago?
Well, it's interesting because 100 years ago, everybody was organic. We were living off the land and eating mostly fruits and vegetables and beans. We ate very little meat, very little dairy, and we were very healthy. Because a lot of factories have been producing a lot of the processed foods, it's very inexpensive for them to make, but they get a lot of money from doing it. And so because it's inexpensive and convenient and easy, a lot of people have switched to it, and now it's more difficult to make those changes because it's been their whole life that they've been eating this way.
Yeah, that's true. Sunday, why don't you ask the next question?
Okay, thank you. Jay, you emphasize using organic vegetables, fruit, beans, and even nuts in an ever-changing American diet. You encourage that. What does the term organic truly mean in sourcing our food?
Well, that's a really good question because certified organic means no herbicides or pesticides, but it also doesn't mean how the soil's been prepared. But then some countries send us stuff called organic, like from China, and they actually use human feces to fertilize with. But that's organic because organic means it was once alive. So you do have to be careful of where things are coming from to know that it's truly organic.
Now, looking at the organics, what is the real difference? We just talked about the herbicides and pesticides, but also doesn't the type of chemical fertilizers that are being used as the nutrients for the plants part of that mix? Because my understanding of the research that I've done is that food production is going down a percentage of 2, maybe even 4% in a country like India or China, because the chemical fertilizers are actually killing the soil instead of enhancing the soil if you're using organic sources of energy for the various anaerobic materials and the worms and other things in that soil. Tell us the difference about that, and why is it important that we need to move to organics to actually feed the soil itself?
Yeah, that is true. Those chemicals do kill anything that's alive in there, like the worms and the microorganisms, and then it's dead soil. So in order to grow good, healthy stuff in that, we'd have to let it sit for a long time or introduce a lot of microorganisms to help clean up the soil. And then we have to make it, again, alive and healthy and nutrient dense. And so much land is ruined that's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, and that's something that people don't really realize, even though, like in America, we think we just have wide open spaces, but when you have a population now, it's 80% urban, and you have a lot of the land, particularly with climate change, where you either have extreme weather events like droughts or flooding, it's getting more and more difficult to produce the food. So the research that you've been doing, and also your work with the University of Florida, the Cooperative Extension Service, what are some of the suggestions you have about how people in urban areas need to be preparing the soils that maybe have been there for 100, 150 years, collecting all the hydrocarbons, which may or may not be good for us, so that they can start growing their own food?
Well, they can actually start collecting mulch and manures and stuff, and start mixing that in with the soil, with the microbes. But what they could do in the meantime is start growing in pots and using good nutrients in order to grow food that they can eat right away while the soil becomes more alive.
Okay, so that's something that you can do gradually, and take the organic material, instead of sending it to the landfill or to putting it somewhere else, to actually start recycling that right in at your own home then.
Exactly, yeah, and I do teach some great composting ideas and other ways to fix the soil.
Fantastic. Sunday, won't you ask the question? We need to answer this quickly. We're running out of time, Jay, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so here goes, Jay. What is the average cost increase, that is the cost increase of using organic food sources, if indeed there are any increases? And if more, how much more? And what are the offsetting benefits of using the increase? The organics over typically chemical produced foods?
Well, the problem is all those people that are out there producing the food with all the chemicals are being subsidized by the government. So in other words, the government is paying them to grow food this way. So it's much cheaper to buy the chemical produced food, but again, you've got all those toxins in them that are going to cause body problems. So it's, even if there's a cost increase, it's much more valuable to eat organic and be healthy, so you don't have to pay all those doctor bills.
So the offsetting then is that if you're eating organic foods, you should have less illness, and so that's an offsetting benefit, correct?
Exactly.
Great. This is Jay McFall, Organic Living Coach, Master Gardener. Also has the Organic Living for All down in Florida. Thank you for being with us as we talk about these very important topics of feeding and as we create the Emerald Planet.